This is Ian Cameron for Sportsbook Review with your college football Week 4 betting preview. We're going to highlight several of the marquee matchups taking place on Saturday, as well as give you a play of the week winner in college football at the end of the video here. So let's get started, and let's start running down some of the bigger matchups on the Saturday card. We're going to start by looking at Michigan State taking on Wisconsin. Michigan State hosting Wisconsin in East Lansing. Very impressive victory for Michigan State last week in their win against Notre Dame. Very impressed with their offense. Tyler O'Connor, we weren't sure about how good he would be at the quarterback position, obviously taking over from Connor Cook, but he had a very solid game. And the defense, when the game was on the line and there to be won, they made all the stops against a very good Notre Dame offense led by Deshaun Kaiser. Very impressed with the Spartans' defense. Yeah, Notre Dame made a nice run in the fourth quarter to make that final score closer than it would, than the run of the play would indicate. But still, Michigan State, a wire-to-wire outright win as a north of a touchdown underdog last week against the Irish. Very impressive. Now they're playing a Wisconsin team. You worry about a letdown a bit, but in terms of a matchup standpoint, this is not a good one, I think, for Wisconsin. Wisconsin, they're going to go with Hornibrook at quarterback. This is going to be his first road start in East Lansing against certainly a better defense than anything he has seen in his brief playing time this season as Badgers QB. So I think there's going to be some troubles. Of course, we've got injuries with Wisconsin at the running back position, including, of course, Corey Clement, who missed the last game with a left ankle injury. He is questionable to return on Saturday against Michigan State. And if this team can't run the football with any sort of effectiveness, they're not going to win, and they're probably not going to cover either. So have to lean to Michigan State there in that game. You can lay -5, -5.5. Yeah, the letdown after the Notre Dame game potentially, but it's a very well-coached team. It's still a Big Ten opener at home. I think Michigan State will have their juices flowing for this game, and if they do, I think they have the potential to win that game by margin. We've got Arkansas taking on Texas A&M on Saturday. A&M looking to continue to hand misery to Arkansas. It's been a really rough go of it for Arkansas against this team in recent years. We'll see if it's any better for them this time around. Texas A&M, a nice win against Auburn. I was actually on A&M last week in that outright win as a road dog against Auburn. We'll see if they can keep it up here, laying significant points against an Arkansas team that you just know desperately wants to win this game. They've just had so many issues, so much problems in the past with this A&M team, but I'm in no rush to step in front of A&M. I've liked this team from the beginning. They beat UCLA at home to begin the season. They win on the road against Auburn. And we've seen Arkansas at times struggle to impose their will physically along the offensive line, and that's really not something that you tend to expect. Austin Allen, the quarterback, has been up and down so far this season. I definitely like what I've seen as well from Trevor Knight at the quarterback position for Texas A&M, and is a dual threat quarterback, unlike Austin Allen, who's more of a pocket passer. So I think in the end, I'm not ready to trust yet. I know they're going to be certainly chomping at the bit to finally get the better of this Texas A&M team, which has had their number in recent years. That being said, it's a tough number to lay for me, considering Arkansas's motivation level. So not a game I got involved with in the end, but I'm not overly rushing out to bet against Texas A&M. They're a team I like quite a bit, and they've proved it so far early in the season. All right, how about LSU and Auburn, another SEC battle? I'll tell you, the problems, this is a really tough game for me, to be honest with you. It's hard for me to lay, as much as I want to bet against Auburn, like I did last week with Texas A&M, it's a mess. Gus Malzahn's on the hot seat. The offense just simply is not working with this team, and they're going to have a tough time moving the football, obviously, against a stingy LSU defense. I don't think there's any denying that. But you're talking now laying more than a field goal with LSU on the road. Now, granted, Auburn's home field hasn't been very strong as of late. They've been losing a lot of home games. It's not as strong as it maybe once was in the glory days of Cam Newton a few years ago. That being said, you're talking about an LSU team with Danny Etling, a quarterback. Danny Etling, who is marginal at best at Purdue. I mean, we're talking about a quarterback that was mediocre at best at Purdue with the Boilermakers. one of the worst teams in the Big Ten, if not the country, for the last several years. So that's a leap of faith to me. I know LSU has had it with the other quarterback that they had starting for them, Harris. But boy, oh boy, is Danny Etling the answer at quarterback, really, on the road against Auburn? And Auburn has at least played somewhat capable, competent defense at times this season. That's the one thing they've had going for them. But boy, I mean, it's just one of those situations where Danny Etling on the road against an SEC defense, I am not sure I'm able to trust that. They're going to have to be able to run the football, LSU, to win this game and cover this number, because I'm just not sure Etling's going to be able to put up points via or move the football via the passing game. So that means it's going to fall upon Leonard Fournette and that LSU offensive line, which, at times Leonard Fournette's had trouble going. Let's think back to the Wisconsin game, the very opening game of the season. They didn't run the football very well in that game, LSU. So that's definitely a concern. This is an impossible game for me. I can't lay 3.5 with LSU here, but Auburn is in real rough shape right now. Lots of, rumors about Gus Malzahn's job security roaming around. Just a very tough situation right now with Auburn football. It's an easy game in the end to pass, to be honest with you. Maybe a lean to the under, but again, 44.5. It's well accounted for that it could be a tough go of it for these two teams moving the football. All right, let us do, in terms of our last game that we're going to break down from a marquee game perspective, Stanford taking on UCLA. I'll tell you what, Stanford, I know they've got Ryan Burns making his first road start here of the season, brand new starting quarterback, but I think in terms of overall personnel, talent, and coaching, especially when you compare the coaching, David Shaw to Jim Mora Jr., I don't think Jim Mora Jr. can match wits with David Shaw, and it's been proven in recent results. Stanford, 5-0 straight up, 4-1 against the spread in head-to-head meetings against UCLA since David Shaw and Jim Mora Jr. have been the head coaches of these programs respectively. That doesn't bode well for the Bruins. Now, the Bruins do have the better quarterback. There's no denying Josh Rosen, the more experienced quarterback, the better pocket passer, the more accurate thrower. There's definitely, UCLA has that going for them, and certainly revenge, because UCLA has just had a miserable time trying to beat Stanford. I understand that. They're going to be motivated for this game, but I'd have to get more points than this to back UCLA. I'm just not sure I trust them here in this matchup. I still think Stanford, Christian McCaffrey, who's really been absolutely going nuts on opposing defenses, has played well against UCLA in the past. I'm just not sure there's answers there for this UCLA defense against Stanford, whereas, as good as Josh Rosen is and has the potential to be, he hasn't exactly had an easy time of it navigating Stanford's defense. So at -3, I can only look to Stanford. Revenge angle be damned. The fact that Ryan Burns is on the road making his first start at quarterback for Stanford, I can only look towards Stanford. I just think they're the better team. They're the better coach team. They're the more disciplined team. UCLA continues to have problems with penalties. So Stanford or pass for me at the current number of -3 in that game. Oh, one more game. We missed it. We're going to talk about it now. Florida, Tennessee, in terms of the marquee games on Saturday. Tennessee, I'm now that it's below 7, I'm tempted to look toward the Tennessee side, just because you've got another Purdue cast-off in Austin Appleby now at quarterback for Florida. Can you imagine this? The SEC, the so-called best conference in college football, they have two guys that weren't good enough to make it at Purdue that are now starting quarterbacks for two teams in the SEC. Appleby here with Florida, Danny Etling with LSU. Can you believe it? I mean, what's this world come to? Really, I mean, garbage from Purdue is being scooped up by the Southeast Conference. What's up with that? How can you explain that? But that's the reason why I have a hard time trusting Florida. Tennessee's defense has been good. The problem with Tennessee is their offensive line. I mean, Josh Dobbs has not gotten adequate protection yet. The Florida defense is phenomenal. Yeah, there's a potential Austin Appleby may not have to do too much. Just don't screw up, and Florida might be in this game from start to finish. I'm just not sure I could pull the trigger on a Florida wager with Appleby under center, and especially now that the line has come down. I mean, Florida opened 8.5-point underdog in this game. It's down to 6.5 now across the board, coming down beyond that key threshold of 7. So below 7, it's pretty simple. This is one of those games where if it's below 7, I lean to Tennessee. If it's beyond 7, I probably would have to lean to Florida just because their defense is good enough that it can probably keep them in a game against a suspect Tennessee offensive line, which has struggled to keep up in run blocking or pass protecting so far this season. Very sluggish performance against Ohio last week by that Tennessee team. Maybe it was a look ahead to this game because Tennessee's got this circled on their calendar. They haven't beaten Florida in forever. This is their best chance to do it. They're going to be motivated as all get out. Knoxville, Rocky Top going to be going nuts for this game. That's why less than 7, I do think there's some value now with Tennessee. I just don't know if I could pull the trigger, though, against that Florida defense, which continues to play very well for the Gators and for Jim McElwain. All right, let's wrap this video up with our college football Week 4 Play of the Week. We're going to go to a non-marquee game for our Play of the Week. We're going to talk about a battle of two smaller Florida schools. We're going to look at the Central Florida International matchup for the Play of the Week. I think this number's cheap on the road team, laying less than a touchdown with the Central Florida Knights. There is nothing, zero to like right now about Florida International. I've never been a big Ron Turner fan. I didn't like him at his previous coaching stops. I don't like him right now here at Florida International. I see a program going backwards, not forwards, and I see a team playing miserable football in their first 3 games. I mean, there is no sugarcoating how bad it's been for FIU here in their first 3 games. They played Indiana, Maryland, and UMass. What were the scores of those 3 games? Well, how about 96-40? 96-40. They lose those 3 games by a combined score, 96-40. They lose the yardage battle in those 3 games by almost 400 yards combined. Alex Mago, who is expected to be a good quarterback for this team, he's been awful. He hasn't thrown a touchdown pass yet. That's how bad it has been for him at the quarterback position for FIU. In fact, he's thrown more touchdowns to the other team so far this season than he's thrown to his own team. I mean, it has been an absolute nightmare. No touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 53% completions for Mago. It's been an absolute nightmare for this Florida International team, offensively and defensively, and they haven't gotten any stops. You look at what they've done. They've given up 34 to Indiana, 41 to Maryland, beaten by a very, very subpar UMass Minutemen team last week, 21-13, and outgained by 79 yards. It's a miserable football team. And even though, and now on the flip side, they're going in this direction, Florida International, and on the flip side, I think Central Florida is going in this direction. I think they're starting to improve. You know, they battled Michigan 51-14 in the final score, but in the yardage battle, they only got outgained by 116 yards in Ann Arbor by that Wolverines team. And I like the quarterback change that head coach Scott Frost has made with this Central Florida team, trying to ignite this up-tempo, no-huddle offense that he's bringing with him from Oregon to Central Florida, going with Mackenzie Milton, the freshman quarterback. He's better than Justin Holman, okay? I've seen enough of Justin Holman to know he's too erratic. I know he's injured. That's what's given Mackenzie Milton the opportunity. But I like the way Mackenzie Milton played last week against Maryland. They didn't win the game, but a wire-to-wire point spread cover as double-digit underdogs. They lose in overtime 30-24, even though they outgained Maryland by 82 yards. Yeah, Milton had an interception, but you got to allow him that. Freshman making his first ever start, but he had 2 touchdowns, solid completion rate, has some ability to make plays with his arm and his feet. And I think he's going to be a boatload to handle for this very, very struggling Florida International defense. And if they fall behind, I don't think they've got the offense that can trade points with this Central Florida team. And the up-tempo offense has a chance to wear down this Florida International defense, which has been out on the field a lot because the offense keeps going 3 and out, unable to sustain drives. I think this could get away from Florida International in this game. And I think the price is cheap. Less than a touchdown. Let's lay it with Central Florida minus 6.5. UCF Knights minus 6.5. That's rotation number 315 to win by at least a touchdown, if not more, against Florida International, a team that has been absolutely hapless through their first 3 games of the season. All right, that's going to wrap it up. That's my look at your college football Week 4 betting preview. I'm Ian Cameron for Sportsbook Review.
Research before you bet. Be sure to check out SPR Picks for the best game predictions, breakdowns, and much, much more.